Encyclopedia Britannica Educational Corporation presents a study of human society. Native American myths.
My name is Ned Romero. I would like to tell you some stories. These stories are myths and legends of my people, the Native Americans. Each tribe has its own unique collection of myths and legends. They're the literature, the poetry, the drama of Native Americans. And most important of all, they try to answer questions that people have always asked. Questions such as, who made the world, and how did we humans come to live upon it? Just as children nowadays go to school to learn these answers, so were Native American children of long ago taught by storytellers. When we hear these old stories, perhaps we can also learn the great lesson that they teach. We can learn that the earth is the mother of all life, and we human beings are but a small part of nature's world. Almost every tribe has a group of legends which tell how the earth was made. For the Seneca tribe of the northeastern United States, the creation came from the sky. The Seneca were a woodland people who lived along the St. Lawrence River, a land of many lakes. It was reasonable for them to believe that the earth was an island surrounded by water. How this came to pass is told in the legend of Sky Woman.
The Seneca tribe tells us that long ago there was an endless ocean, and high above, a world in the sky. There was no sun. This heavenly world was lighted by the blossoms of a great tree. It was a happy land, and the man-beings of heaven were content, for they were led by a wise and kindly chief. One night, the chief dreamt of the woman he must marry. Her name was Sky Woman, and she became the wife of the chief. The people rejoiced with happiness for their chief. Sky Woman's love for her husband was so great that when she inhaled his breath, a child was conceived. As the child grew inside Sky Woman's body, the chief became puzzled and angry. He could not understand how the child had been conceived or whose child it was. In his torment, he dreamt that he must uproot the tree of light. The chief did as his dream commanded. As he uprooted the tree, a great hole was torn in the sky. Sky Woman was frightened by her husband's behavior. "Come, look what I have done," demanded the chief. When his poor wife looked into the hole, the tormented chief pushed the Sky Woman from behind, down into the hole. The man-beings of heaven cried out in protest. Their pleas infuriated the crazed chief, who silenced them with one sweep of his hand. The creatures of the ocean saw Sky Woman falling and vowed to save her. They called for help. The birds rose eagerly to the rescue. The great snapping turtle offered his back as a landing place. At the bottom of the ocean, muskrat collected mud to cushion Turtle's hard shell. And when he placed the mud on Snapping Turtle's back, the mud spread as far as the eye could see, until it became all the land of this world. High above, Sky Woman fell gently onto the outstretched wings. and the birds brought Sky Woman safely down to the new formed earth. When his anger cooled, the Chief of Heaven rejoiced to see Sky Woman saved. So that all might survive, he transformed the man beings of heaven into the creatures of the earth. And the Seneca people say that in time, Sky Woman became known as Mother Earth herself, and to this day watches lovingly over all her children.
Many tribes trace their ancestry back to animal beings at a time before people and animals became different. The Haida tribe of northwestern Canada honors the raven as the father of their people. They were skilled wood carvers, creating elaborate totem poles in remembrance of their ancestors. Listen now as I tell the Haida story of how their father, the raven, gave daylight unto mankind.
When the world was new, the chief of evil spirits was jealous of the sunlight, and so he used his magic powers to snare the sun and hide it, plunging the world into darkness. The evil one threw the sun into a wooden box. He summoned Quetik, the warrior seagull, to watch over his stolen treasure. The seagull assumed his warrior form and vowed to keep the sun imprisoned forever. The people of the earth were afraid of the darkness. They called on Nekilstalas, the raven, father of all human beings. Help us, they cried. Nekilstalas heard their pleas, and changing himself into his raven's form, he flew off into the gloom. In time, he came to the land of darkness and to the evil one's lodge, where Quetik kept constant vigil over the sun. Nekilstalas circled the lodge. Then, forming a plan, he turned himself back into a human. He hurried to the seashore, where he gathered sea urchins from the water's edge. Stealthily, he carried the spiny creatures to Quetik's lodge, scattering them noisily around the doorway. Nekilstalas flew off to watch. Quetik stormed out to see who was prowling about. As he started out of the lodge, he stepped upon the spiny sea urchins. Then Nekilstalas put his plan to work. "My friend," he said, "I chanced to pass and heard your cries. Can I be of any help?" Quetik begged the stranger to draw the spines from his feet. "It is very dark in here," said Nekilstalas, "but I will do my best." "Stop," cried Quetik. "Stop, you are hurting me." "But it is so dark in here," replied the crafty raven. "Wait, you need light?" And Quetik opened the box. "It is still too dark." Quetik opened the box more. "I must have even more light," said Nekilstalas. And holding Quetik's foot firmly, he threw open the box, allowing the sun to escape. The sun swiftly fled from the lodge and rose so high in the sky it could never be caught again. Quetik, realizing he had been tricked, feared that his carelessness would bring the wrath of the evil one. So the frightened warrior seagull flew anxiously away. And to this day, say the Haida tribe, the seagull must hide from the evil one on the empty wastes of the ocean.
The Klamath tribe of Oregon lives in a land of great volcanic mountains. Their country is cold and rugged, and the Klamath, like all Native Americans, were especially thankful for the gift of fire. There are many stories which tell how fire was given to humankind. The Klamath people give credit to an animal, the coyote, a popular character in the legends of many tribes. Here is how coyote stole fire. The first man and woman on earth had no understanding of fire. When the summer warmed the earth, they were content. But when winter came,
they suffered from the cold. The animals of the world pitied the human beings because they had no fur or feathers to keep them warm. But no one knew how to help them. Finally, the coyote called a council of the animals. "My friends, we must help these poor creatures, or they will die from the cold. We must give them fire." "Fire," said the others. "But where is fire to be found?" "I have seen fire," said the crow. And Crow told his story to the eager audience. "It is high on a mountaintop in a land to the north. It is guarded by 3 monsters who take turns sleeping, so that fire is always guarded." "Who will steal fire for the human beings?" asked Coyote. "You lead, and we will follow," replied the group. Coyote was determined to help, and so he agreed to lead the way. The little group journeyed far to the north, until they came to the land of fire, home of the fire monsters. When the brave animals reached the mountaintop, they could see the precious fire. Close by lay the sleeping monsters, while their companions stood watch. The animals waited and waited, until it was time for the guard to change. Now was their chance. Coyote ran swiftly to the unguarded fire, but it burned his mouth. Now the guard saw Coyote. Gingerly, he picked up fire and raced away, with the guards in angry pursuit. Fire was swept back by the speed of the chase and singed Coyote's fur. The brave animal only ran faster, but not fast enough. Coyote was seized so violently that he dropped fire. Squirrel dashed in to rescue fire, but fire was too hot, and he too dropped it. Now it was Frog's turn to save fire, but Frog was not fast enough, and he was caught by his long tail. Wood swallowed up the precious flame. The guards tried frantically to get fire out of wood, but it was gone. The guards were furious over their lost fire and went angrily back to their home in the mountain. The animals were sad. They had failed their mission. "But wait," said Coyote. "Fire was swallowed by wood. It has not come out, so it must still be there. Let us find a way to coax it out." And so the animals carried wood back to the first man and woman. Thus did mankind learn to coax fire from wood. And from that time on, people have always had fire. And to this day, Coyote's mouth is black and his sides and tail are singed. Squirrel's tail is curled and singed, and Frog has no tail at all. The Cherokee tribe was a large and powerful nation that lived in the southeastern United States. The Cherokee were especially skilled in their use of plants, both for rituals and for medicines. Perhaps it's their deep feeling for plants which is revealed in my next tale. It is called The Story of the First Strawberry. The first man and woman lived on the earth when it was still young and fresh. They had everything they needed, but they were not happy. They quarreled over everything, little things, big things, everything. And the more they quarreled, the more they grew angry. Finally, the woman became so furious, she ran away. Eventually, the man's anger passed. He could not even remember what they had quarreled about. He only remembered that he missed his wife. He felt so sad and lonesome, he decided to find his wife and ask her to come home. No matter how fast the husband ran, his wife ran faster. The man could not catch her. Tired and discouraged, he called upon the sun. The sun took pity on the husband and proceeded to help, causing berry bushes and fruit trees to spring up and tempt the wife. But the woman was too angry to notice them. Then the sun created another plant. The woman had never seen such a pretty berry, and she grew curious. It was the first strawberry. As she paused to examine this tiny new fruit, the memory of her husband came to her. A feeling of loneliness filled her heart, and she could not go on. She knew now she needed her husband just as he needed her. And so, thanks to this tiny new plant, man and woman returned home together, determined to live in peace and harmony forever. The Hopi tribe of the American Southwest lives on mesas in the midst of a very dry area. They are an agricultural people whose existence on this harsh land depends upon a successful harvest. And just as everything that sustains them comes from the earth, the Hopi believe that all living things began deep underground. This Hopi legend tells how the people came out of the underworld. Long ago, they say, the Hopi lived in the underground, which is the original source of life. In the beginning, everyone lived in peace and harmony. But as people multiplied, things began to change. Many grew selfish and mean, and disharmony fell upon the land. The heart of their chief grew heavy with care. He summoned his wisest counselors to find a solution to end this discord. They smoked the sacred pipe and prayed for guidance. Their prayers were answered when a great eagle appeared before the council. "Find a new world for our good people," pleaded the chief. The eagle promised he would try and flew off into the sky. At nightfall, the exhausted eagle returned and told the council what he had found. "I saw an opening in the sky. Beyond it was another world, but I could not fly high enough to reach it. We must call upon my brother, the hawk, who is stronger of wing than I." The chief sent the hawk, who flew higher and farther. But the hawk was not strong enough. So the chief summoned the swallow, but he too failed in his mission. Finally, the chief called on the most determined of all the birds, the shrike. "You must succeed," said the chief, and the shrike flew swiftly away. Once again, the people waited. At the end of the day, the shrike returned triumphant. "I have flown through the opening in the sky and found a new world," he announced. The people rejoiced, all except their wise chief. "If only the strongest of birds can reach the new world," he asked, "how can my people go there?" The question saddened his people. In the silence that followed, a tiny voice was heard. "Perhaps I can help." It was the chipmunk. "But you cannot fly," cried the people. "How can you help?" The chipmunk responded by planting a spruce tree seed. Then, using his magic powers, he made it grow. But it did not grow high enough. So the chipmunk tried again. This time, he planted a fir tree, and though it grew taller than the spruce, it was not tall enough. Neither was the long needle pine, which was planted next. The people were disheartened, but Chipmunk would not give up. He tried again with a tiny shoot, carefully sprinkling it with a piñon nut full of water. The tiny shoot grew into a gigantic reed, which grew taller and taller, past the spruce, fir, and pine, high into the sky, where it was lost in the clouds. Immediately, the chipmunk began gnawing a hole in the hollow reed. "See if the reed grows tall enough," commanded the chief. And the shrike flew swiftly to do his bidding. Later, as Chipmunk completed his task, the shrike returned, crying, "The reed is growing through the opening in the sky. It enters the new world." The people rejoiced. "Good people, follow me to our new land," cried the chief happily. And the good people swarmed eagerly after their great chief. The evil ones, however, did not wish to be left behind and fought their way after the good people. Soon the reed was filled with wicked people, pushing and clawing their way up the reed. High above, the chief hurriedly helped the good people into the new world. Meanwhile, in the underground, a priest began his task of keeping the evil ones from reaching the new world. Just as the chief helped the last of the good people out of the reed, the evil ones began to appear. Suddenly, the reed began to tremble. In their selfish haste, the evil ones had only prevented themselves from leaving their underground world. Thus came the Hopi people out of the underground into a better world, a world free from evil, where life could begin again in peace and harmony.
These myths and legends have provided the Native Americans with knowledge and understanding of their place on Earth, not as adversaries of nature, but as part of the natural world. Perhaps if the human family is to survive, we must once again learn this ancient wisdom. After all, every living thing, plants, animals, and people, are but the children of Mother Earth. Thank you for listening to my stories. Goodbye.